Hello everybody, welcome to the channel. In today's video we're going to talk about optics and specifically the Cold War optics, and the main reason for this video has been commented a lot. Are any of these optics actually reducing the recoil? One of the main things that makes the VLK so popular is that it does in fact reduce your recoil because of the way the engine works. I don't think it was intentional, it's just kind of the way it works. So sometimes these higher zoomed optics actually give you a little bit of benefit. So what we're going to do is show off a little bit of testing I did for reflex sights 2x, 3x, and 4x for 4 different weapons and kind of make a conclusion. I'm going to show you a little bit about how I tested this because obviously we don't have private matches, at least in a sensible way. And we'll go ahead and talk about the results and kind of decide whether or not you should be using these higher zoom optics. Enjoy the video, learn something new. Please do me a favor, hit the like button. If you're brand new, want to find your way back, make sure you are subscribed with notifications on. Short answer, it's a little bit inconclusive, but you guys will be able to make the decision for yourself. Obviously, I'm going to show you how to do it and all that stuff, and then we'll show side by side. But I did want to kind of give you that. It is inconclusive. It's not like one, hey, use this one and it is 100% better because that's not necessarily what the results will say. But let's go ahead and walk through it so you can kind of see what I did, because there are some inconsistencies where it is looking like it actually helps and other times where it doesn't. So in Plunder, I took my created class. Obviously, I have all the attachments because I've maxed out all of my guns with the exception of the DLC weapons that just came out with the Season 1. And what I did is I found this area in Dam where it has 4 locations. So I could test 4 different attachments basically at once, a reflex, a 2 times, a reflex, a 2 time, and then kind of just do that test and compare it. What I did for consistency's sake is I stood 15 meters away from the wall, and pretty much what I did is I went to 14 and I slowly backed up until it transitioned over 15 because we don't have that extra decimal spot. Then I marked the spot, I walked up to it, and then I pretty much took screenshots at the exact same spot so I could do these comparisons. So pretty much this is what I'm doing. I'm going to go ahead and fire the weapon. Once I line it up, you can see I got it lined up, aim, and shoot. One of the biggest issues with this game is it does not have any stability attachments. Normally, you would expect to see some kind of stability attachments like we saw with the laser sight, tactical grip, the stock, like M16 stock on the M4. And pretty much what I'm doing now is I was trying to figure out how I wanted to test this. And what I ended up deciding is I marked this little side extra section and I waited until it went to about 5 meters. Then I looked at the target, put my crosshairs a little bit below them, and that's the steel shot that I pretty much went with. Pretty much did that for the XM4. I did it for the Krig. Same thing. I mark it, come up to it, put my crosshairs or my crosshairs, my hipfire crosshairs a little bit lower so I can see exactly where it is. And that's kind of how I did my my testing. Obviously, there's better scenarios where it could be a little bit more perfect. I could have done 10 examples or whatever. But it just doesn't work out that way. So I did the exact same thing for the higher optics as well as, the lower optics. So I did that for everything. So I did this for all of them, but it actually looks particularly funny when you do them for the LMGs and the higher optics. So when we go over here, I guess because the muzzle flash, the way it works, it ends up like blocking the screen when you fire the weapon. And with the LMGs, I did 45 and 35 rounds. And with the rifles, I did specifically the 30 default. I only went with 45 is because I ended up having a little bit too much when I fired, and that's kind of what I ended up going with. So you can see right here, I'm doing the same method over and over and over again. Making sure it's lined up. And look at the screen gets all, it's kind of a weird, I think it's a reflection from the ice or something like that. But that's pretty much the methodology. You can go ahead and replicate this yourself if you agree or disagree, whatever. This is the testing method I use to try and be as precise as possible. So this first set of recoil patterns is for the XM4, and I use the exact same class setup. The only thing I swapped was the actual optic from reflex to 2 times to 3 times to 4 times. And you can see what happens here. I fire this orange blot. They have the blue one here, and you can kind of see it does look like it's reducing it by a hair. But obviously, since there's no stability attachments, it's very hard to guarantee you're getting a consistent recoil pattern. And you'll see specifically when we get to the RPD, how it just kind of randomly end up kicking a different direction. But there does look like to be a little bit of consistency here where these optics are actually reducing the recoil, even if it's in a minimal way. Now let's go ahead and look at the Krig. So when we look at the Krig 6, you can see that we have the reflex here, and we're looking at a similar trend. We're getting a reduction in recoil if we are using the 2 times, the 3 times, or the 4 times. And just kind of a comparison's sake, when you use this exact class setup in Cold War, the recoil is like 3 dots high. Like it only goes up to like this third dot right there. That's how high the recoil goes. So they've definitely changed these things up to balance them out a little bit more. You can see this recoil pattern, very manageable recoil. But here we see a reduction with the 2 times, the 3 times, and the 4 time, where it looks like the 2, 3, and 4 times have a relative decent consistency. Now let's go ahead and check out the RPD, where we're going to get a little bit of an anomaly, but we'll kind of see how the overall trend continues. So we get a little bit of a wild card. I can show you in game if you guys wanted, but over here we get a reflex that goes up and to the left. All of a sudden the 2X kind of flop this way, and I think this has to do with just those stability attachments. If it started bouncing a little bit with the idle sway, it can actually carry the recoil over, and I think idle sway is just one of those things that we're not able to factor into these things because we can't actually equip stability attachments. None of the guns in Cold War have stability attachments to match Modern Warfare. So we don't have laser sights, like they said, the stock. We don't have the rubberized grip, and we do not have the tactical grip, so that we can actually make everything so that the only variable is the optic. So it's a little disappointing in that regard. I really didn't even notice until I started doing recoil tests. I'm like, I can't even really get recoil consistently. You can see it 3 times. Doesn't look like there's consistency there. And 4 times. This says a little bit more about the RPD in terms of its overall stability, that it's probably not an ideal weapon when you can have that level of randomness within the recoil, where even without an optic it looks cleaner, but it could be just because of how the the little pendulum swing in that idle sway. Now let's go ahead and look at the stoner, and the stoner, I was pleasantly surprised, and I think this is going to be one of those top tier weapons. So now we have the stoner, and you can see the reflex, the 2 times, the 3 times, and the 4 times are relatively even. Obviously, we're getting a minor reduction on the 3 times and the 4 times, but it's like a 2 bullet difference. I would say it's so minimal that it's not even conclusive in this case. You can see I've taken the screenshots. They're all lined up. Everything looks pretty good, or as good as you can get it for the testing. And you can kind of see how that ends up playing out. So overall, what are my thoughts on it? Obviously, if you're going to be in a long range engagement, you're going to want some kind of form of optical zoom to compete, but the way the Cold War weapons are designed, ideally you want to use them short to medium with a sniper or a Kar 98 or something along those lines, so you can have those longer range engagements dealt with that way, and short to medium with this. Obviously the stoner, with it only having vertical recoil, it is very manageable. If you're putting on a 3X or a 4X, pull down, and they even have a 10X zoom optic on these things. So if you really want to have that sniper optic, even more than the Kar 98, which I think is an 8X, and the SPR, which is an 8X, you're going to be able to go ham with these types of things. So let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. Are there specific optics that you guys have tried that you feel have a little bit more of benefit? Do you think these are having a placebo effect? Do you think these are actually helping out? Do you think anything as good as the VLK? Obviously, we saw some promising signs with the rifles, but we got into the LMGs, not as much. Even if it is minimal, even though there is some consistency. Let me know down in the comment section what you guys think. Enjoyed the video, learned something new. Please do me a favor, hit that like button. If you're brand new, want to find your way back, make sure you are subscribed with notifications on. Do appreciate all the support on the channel. Thank you for watching. As always, have a great day.